Good evening. And welcome to Have I News for You, which, as you may have noticed tonight, has a special Christmas theme, somewhat overzealously embraced by our set designers. In the news this week, after a baby drinks an entire bottle of washing up liquid, doctors tell the parents all they can do is wait. Thanks, that's better. At the launch of an anti-drugs campaign, US Customs make the mistake of displaying a recently seized consignment of hash cookies. And in an increasingly desperate bid for ratings, BBC One unveils its new show combining Animal Hospital with Ready Steady Cook. On Ian Hislop's team is the Liberal Democrat leader, who tonight makes his 6th appearance on the show. One more and he gets to keep Ian. Charles Kennedy. And with Paul Merton tonight is ITN's political editor, who recently said there's an impression that to get ahead in TV you need to have a name like Kirsty and wear power skirts. So no prize for guessing what he's wearing under the desk. Kirsty Sargent. And so to our final first round, if that's not a contradiction in terms, which I think it is, with a slight break in tradition this week as we reveal here and now that tonight's guest publication, upon which questions may be based at any stage in the show, that's how exciting it is the truly pertinent Christmas Trees Monthly. A publication whose sales do tend to drop off rather around June, July time. So, bearing that in mind, Ian and Charles.
Star Spangled Banner.
US Army, someone called Bowski. Right, new recruit then. More tea, Vicar? Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it's Donald Rumsfeld.
Yes.
So how is the hunt for bin Laden going?
Well, they're very much looking for him.
Right.
Actually, Donald Rumsfeld said, we won't know where he is till we've caught him.
Isn't the problem that we're spelling his name wrong, or we can't work out which way to spell it?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
if we knew whether it was Uzama or Osama, we'd probably catch him within hours.
Yes.
Do you think the Americans are using the wrong bit of the phone book?
Yeah. And also, isn't the other trouble, he knows we're after him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the phone for? Are they trying to cold call people, see if they know where he is?
Lord Armid
John
is
Sargent
complaining...
is the political editor. You're supposed to know the answer.
I do. I'm moving. I'm moving to the answer,
No,
but I
there's
don't...
an explanation being given over here.
Now, give me...
You've got to be a
Armid.
listening party. Listening.
But I'm a control freak.
Lord Armid,
Lord
who
Armid.
was pictured there with the telephone, it's the wrong sort of telephone because he complained that his mobile phone was being tapped by MI5.
Yeah.
Now, we
There's
all
a bloke
knew...
standing next to him listening to everything he said.
Yeah. Now, we knew that was wrong.
Apparently they did discover that recently he was on the train.
The gravy train.
Yes, which is true.
Not only that, but apparently he was going to be home a bit late and he'd pick up the shopping.
How are wasps helping the US?
Wasps have been trained to sniff out mines, right? And apparently it only takes them an hour.
Why does it take them an hour? If it was a picnic, they'd be there in 5 minutes.
Yes, but war is no picnic.
So, your Christmas question. Where is the presidential Christmas tree in the White House?
It's in the library,
Is it
next to
not?
the colouring book.
Is it in the corner of the Oval Office?
I have a feeling there isn't one.
That's the gag, Angus!
No, it's in the Blue Room. This is the triumphant final phase of the war, which has resulted in the dramatic discovery of bin Laden's absence. Defence Secretary Donald Rumsfeld spelled out the latest situation. Until we catch bin Laden, we won't know precisely where he was. A Pentagon spokesman adding, anybody's guess is the latest thinking. And as for Mullah Omar, we have less current information on him. The words wind and pissing immediately spring to mind. In Kabul, Marines reopened the American embassy after 13 years and found it had become a time capsule of 1989, an age when the world was very different. Someone called George Bush was president, the Middle East was in turmoil, and an irritating Kylie Minogue song had just got to #1. Paul and John, your Christmas turkey.
This is the wonderful new project which, under a deal which has been announced, is in government hands for another 999 years, which is when Tony Blair's promised to hand over to Gordon Brown. Yeah. He's the man, PJ Gerbo, the only man who got a few laughs out of the dough.
And then she was the woman who ran it before him.
Jenny Page.
Yeah.
And who's it been leased to?
To an American company with a strange name. I think it's called Auschwitz, isn't it? Or is that...
Well, his name is called Anne Schutz, yes.
And apparently he gets up at 4:30 in the morning.
And then goes back to bed again when he realises it's too early.
Do you know what his motto is?
Yeah.
Philip Anne Schutz, what is it?
Is that the time?
His motto is, when you take action, you can create the outcome.
Is that the time?
So how much is these people?
Isn't it nothing?
It is nothing, yes.
It's
After all this
nothing.
about, they said that we found a buyer for the dome. They haven't. They found someone they can give it to for nothing.
You know, Angus, I was the only one of the 3 UK party leaders who declined my invitation to take in the Millennium in the Dome.
So you had a policy on the dome, did you, Charles?
The policy was that we need to take an even-handed approach.
And have you ever worked in the construction industry at all?
No.
So what were you doing here, then?
He was auditioning for YMCA.
Yes, it is the announcement that an American consortium is poised to take over the troubled Millennium Dome. A note of was sounded by Nick Harvey, who, according to The Guardian, is the Liberal Democrats' dome spokesman. How busy a job is that, Charles?
It represents promotion.
Oh, poor old Nick Harvey. Can you imagine him watching that?
Yeah, he's crying his eyes out.
He's finished now,
Yeah,
isn't he?
yeah. He's probably
On
got
the
his mum to
floor
watch
sobbing,
it.
and he's thinking, my leader doesn't like me.
Yeah. And that's ruined his Christmas, hasn't it?
Yes, that's put him wrong for Christmas.
Yeah.
I've just remembered something about Jenny Page, too, the woman who used to run the dome. She sat on 3 boards in the last 2 years. Do you know what they are? The Dome, Equitable Life, and Rail Track.
So at the end of that round, the scores, well, Ian and Chris have an embarrassingly small... Chris,
Ian and
hello.
Chris?
Ian and Chris. Ian and Charles, sorry. So at the end of that round...
I think your profile needs working on.
I think you're right, David.
So at the end of that round, Ian and Charles have an embarrassingly small 2, whilst Paul and John have a grotesquely large 3. In round 2, we mourn the passing of the English language as we consider a number of tabloid headlines, beginning with Ian and Charles. Given the boot.
Is it the Leeds 2?
The Leeds 2, that'll be Jonathan Woodgate and Lee Bowyer.
Those are the ones? What the judge called a thug and a liar.
So what's happened to those 2 people then this week?
They were found to be celebrities and therefore not put in prison.
Well, he was forced to pay costs, of course, Lee Bowyer.
And the other one got given community service
That's right.
for a fray.
Yes, although Lee Bowyer has, in fact, been fined for a fray in the past. In 1996, for example, at McDonald's, where he's supposed to have shouted at one of the assistants, "I don't want to be served by a packie, get me a white person or I'll beat you all up." So he's always been Mr. Nice Guy, really.
They're ambassadors for the game, really, aren't they?
We have a very different disciplinary structure at Westminster, of course, because if the MPs don't like the person doling out the punishments, they just sack them.
I will give the last word to the Sun on this one. What do you call 12 Leeds fans in the same room? The jury. So, John, you're more of a rugby man, aren't you?
Yes, play a lot of rugby. No, I don't.
Why did you say you panicked? You panicked, didn't you?
I panicked. He's so engaging when he says something like you sort of agreeing.
Right, let's have a Christmas tree question. Why are Christmas trees good news for drunks?
You can't speed in one.
They're good for support.
I'm going to tell you, it's a drink made from pine needles, which is believed to be a new cure for hangovers.
Really? What's it called?
Well, that's very handy.
Pine needle juice.
How can you tell if your drink's been spiked or not? Curious combination, a groan and clapping. It's like, not quite sure on that one. Oh, go on, it's Christmas. We'll be using it tomorrow.
It's got charity.
Is it?
It's pantomime season, Paul. It's
Oh,
pantomime
no, it
season.
isn't.
Charles, you're part of a wild drinking set, aren't you?
Say yes.
But we can see your partners in crime.
Is that Stringfellows?
String vests.
It is the fallout from the trial of Jonathan Woodgate and Lee Bowyer. The Mirror's front page on Wednesday challenged Lee Bowyer to sue them for describing him as boozing, pot-smoking, violent, racist, cowardly, unapologetic, lying, odious, transfer-listed Lee Bowyer. He hasn't sued, but Pepsi has. Meanwhile, Jonathan Woodgate has been ordered to do 100 hours community service, helping the poor, elderly and infirm, so he'll be spending the rest of the season at Ipswich. Paul and John, your turn of phrase, wine, wine, wine.
No, I think this is about ambulance men have been complaining that people are calling them out for all kinds of sort of like bizarre and odd reasons. Somebody says, oh, I don't like my haircut. And they dial 999 and the ambulance crew turn up. And it's sort of silly reasons they've been called out. And it's just not good enough.
There are all sorts of different things that they ring 999 for. One rang in to say the kids wouldn't go to bed. One man couldn't reach his remote control. And another had forgotten their mobile telephone number. So what's the other NHS story in the news this week?
They've been fiddling the lists.
Yes.
So the waiting list becomes shorter because you just put them on another list, or you put the list inside a cupboard and lock the door.
They try and get people to go to a call centre, isn't it? So you say, press 1 if you want your operation on Christmas Day. Press 2 if you're prepared to have any operation.
Press 4 if you've lost the use of your hands.
If you're really ill, please hang up.
Yes. So it's the revelation that up to 40% of 999 calls are from hypochondriacs and time wasters. One man called an ambulance telling him, I picked my nose, dipped the finger in a jar of jam and ate it, and now I feel ill. And so do the rest of us. One case, the ambulance call centre were asked to respond to, concerned a man who couldn't yawn, whom they dealt with by rushing him urgently to the Liberal Democrat Party conference. Ian and Charles, your absurd suggestion. It's time for Charles Kennedy to grow up.
Yeah. I think this is two jags. This is Mr. Prescott. I mean, he speaks, you know, from a position of authority. I mean, John, as we know, is a man who more than punches above his own weight. I went to see Tony Blair, and he had one of these Billy Bass fish things in his office. And as I was coming out, I said to him, what's that? And he said, oh, that's a present from John Prescott. The next day, by pure chance, I was walking down the corridor in the House of Commons. Who's coming along but John Prescott? I said, oh, hello, John. I said, I saw your fish yesterday. He said, have you been in seeing Tony? And I said, yes, I have. He said, oh, the only way I find out who's seen Tony is they all come up to me and say, oh, John, I saw you. Anyway, I think this was our esteemed Deputy Prime Minister having a bit of a dig at me.
What did you do to provoke his wrath?
It was Paul Marsden, wasn't it? Wasn't it his defection that angered him so?
I think that he probably wasn't too delighted by that.
Although some of your party haven't been too delighted by that. Some people have been saying the party is now a dustbin for disaffected politicians.
You're in a difficult position, though. You can't really say no. You can't turn him down, can you?
Well, not if somebody subscribes to the principles and the values of the party.
For over 5 minutes. I think Marsden better watch out. I think Prescott might find him in the tea room and give him a good thumping.
It's the Christmas spirit and its notable absence in Westminster. John Prescott's attack on the Lib Dems was prompted by the defection of Paul Marsden, who's allegedly been confronted in the House of Commons bar by Labour MPs telling him, "There's the arsehole, there's a f***ing traitor. What the f*** are you doing here? You're a f***ing traitor, you're a f***ing disgrace." Honestly, when that Margaret Beckett's had a Malibu... And finally in this round, Paul and John. Warum heißt Canada Canada?
This is the great joke contest, isn't it?
Oh, yes, yes.
This is... The Germans laugh at this joke. It's fantastically funny if you speak German.
Right.
It says, why are you called Canada Canada?
It's only half the joke, though.
Oh, is that it? Sorry.
Yes.
Perhaps the second part of the joke is the bit that makes you laugh, is that it? I was just doing the first bit.
Traditionally, that tends
OK,
to
so why do you call
let's
Canada
move
Canada?
on.
Yeah,
Let's
and the
move
second
on
half of the joke?
effortlessly to the second part of the joke.
Because there's no one there. In German, it is weil es gibt keine da, which means because there is no one there, and it also sounds like Canada, thereby creating a joke.
But jokes don't really sort of travel that well, do they, really?
Evidently, no.
I used to do a joke which I used to say, I always wanted to ask Lee Harvey Oswald, can you remember what you were doing when President Kennedy was assassinated? When I was in Canada, I did several gigs in clubs, and I tried that joke, and they never laughed. They just looked at me. I tried it at the beginning, I tried it between two good jokes, I tried it at the end. They were looking at me, they were going, well, but why would you ask that question? We know where he was. So jokes don't always travel.
No.
There's some great jokes that aren't in this list.
Would you like to know what they are?
There's one good joke.
Right.
A bloke goes to a restaurant, he sits down, he says to the waiter, I'll have a bowl of soup. And the waiter comes over and he's got his thumb stuck in the soup. And the bloke says, what are you doing? And the waiter says, I'll do that to keep my thumb warm. And the bloke says, well, why don't you shove it up your arse? He says, I do when I'm in the kitchen.
What is the funniest joke in Britain, according to this survey, then?
Oh, it's, I can't remember. It's a Sherlock Holmes joke, isn't it?
That was the funniest joke in the world. Was the, yes, the funniest one in Britain is, Doctor, there's a piece of lettuce sticking out of my bottom. Doctor, I'm afraid it's just the tip of the iceberg. Funniest joke in Britain, apparently. The Germans were the most active in this survey. They phoned
Yes, they're
up
desperate
the
to
most.
prove they've got a sense of humour, aren't they?
That was
Yeah.
Willie Rushton's best joke. He used to say, where would we be without a sense of humour? Germany.
Willie Rushton also did a very good joke once, and I'm sorry I haven't a clue, the radio show, where you had to complete a famous phrase, and the phrase he had to complete was, don't get your knickers in. And he completed it with a car boot sale.
And what's the gender divide?
Women prefer cleverer jokes than men. Men go for sort of, like, not very subtle jokes.
Yes, men prefer innuendo, and women prefer wordplay. Bet they do. Which, funny business, brings us gagging to the end of this round, with Ian and Charles currently behind, cracking up as they are 8-7. Odd one out has never let us down as a description of our third round. Ian and Charles, your ageing swingers are Bill and Hillary Clinton, Elton John, Frasier, and Mr. X.
Mr. X.
Mr. X.
What is he doing there? Is it a
Technical
balloon
term, obviously.
sculpture?
It is a sculpture,
Is it a light sculpture?
quite heavy.
Glass?
Yes.
Has this got anything to do with it whatsoever?
With the question,
Yeah.
Charles, yes, it's part of it.
Is it... Is this at the V&A?
It is at the V&A,
I've
yes.
seen this exhibition of Japanese glass.
Mr. X is a workman at the V&A.
And he
Right.
bust it, did he? Did he? Very, very
He
funny.
dropped it. It involves someone called Dale.
Dale
Dale.
Winton?
It's Dale Chihuly, whom we can have a look at here.
Is he the designer of the glass?
So they all
is the
bought
designer.
bits and pieces of his stuff apart from Mr. X, who's dropped it.
Is the right answer.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, if both eyes were working for the poor man, presumably it could be so much better what he produces.
Well,
you think about it.
Well, really?
Yes.
A That's the one-eyed vote gone.
Bill Clinton has a couple of Chihulis, as Monica will testify. And how did Bill and Hillary come about these?
Given to them as a present.
Well, yes, special gifts in their final year of office. You registered 2 gifts, didn't you, this year, Charles?
Did I?
Yes, Wimbledon tickets and a plate.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, is that a good year?
I mean, that's...
John, have you seen Bill Clinton recently?
Yes, we did, actually. I went to see that lecture he gave.
Richard Dimbleby lecture, yeah.
Impressed?
I was, yes. I thought it was all very exciting. I tried to rush forward, but everyone else rushed forward at the end.
Well, throw your knickers at him.
Because...
I thought it was
but whenever I see an
disgraceful
American
bit of
president, I rush
corporate
forward.
sucking up to Clinton, honestly.
On behalf of the BBC.
Above everybody. He's delivered about 6 speeches already this week, and we had that one again. Everybody's in a little box, and we've got to get out the box and get into another box, a bigger box. He actually said at one point, I want you to think about when you go home. Ooh, he's turned into a vicar. Don't really like being preached at by him much.
Well, evidently, we can tell. But you did, John.
I enjoyed it, yes. No, I like all that sort of stuff. And I think that he was just amazing, really, when you think of all that he's done.
Yes.
And who he's done it to.
The answer is that they're all collectors of artist Dale Chihuli's precious glass sculptures, apart from Mr. X, a workman who recently broke one. Staff at the V&A watched in horror as a large crack appeared. Then the workman stood up and knocked over the glass sculpture. Elton John has recently appeared in an advert for the Postal Service, although he's not the only pop figure helping the Royal Mail's Christmas campaign. Gary Barlow's got a casual job at Slough Sorting Office. Paul and John, for you, the return, despite popular demand, of one of these.
Well, the last one you played is Taxman, the beginning of Revolver, the Beatles track, written by George Harrison.
Well done. God.
But it's a famous beginning. Can we hear them again?
You can hear them again, yes.
It's the... You know what that
Leave the campfires burn.
is. No.
I didn't know the synthesizer. I didn't know the synthesizer.
So, odd one out, and why?
classic?
The first one...
O Tannenbaum,
yes.
I can't believe it.
So what was adopted by?
the red flag.
Yes. Okay.
Let's hear the synthesizer one again.
OK, all right.
Is it Boney M?
Stevie Wonder.
Happy birthday.
Well done. Extraordinary. We've suddenly uncovered Ian's knowledge of popular music.
What are they playing there?
You're supposed to be the classical buff.
Yeah,
Warren.
can we hear that bit again? It's Beethoven, isn't it?
Well spotted.
Beethoven 6th.
It's not
Oh, it's the third. It's the Eroica, isn't it?
It's the Eroica.
It is Eroica.
Yeah, exactly, it's the Eroica.
George Harrison.
So we've now identified them as O Tannenbaum, Happy Birthday,
Yeah.
the Eroica Symphony by Beethoven, and Taxman.
Right. OK, then these are pieces of music that are dedicated to famous people. The Happy Birthday one is dedicated to Martin Luther King. The Eroica one, now, was that Napoleon?
Yeah.
Taxman has got
rounded
Mr
out.
Heath, Mr Wilson in the lyrics. So the red flag's the other one out. It's not dedicated to one person.
Is the right answer.
But Beethoven got so disgusted by Napoleon, he scratched his name out.
That's right, he hated him after that. He said, this is not good. I do not want him to be... Why? He was Italian.
I thought Beethoven had entered the room then.
Yeah.
What did Beethoven lie about?
He said he could hear. And he said, you're lying. And he said, 2:30.
He didn't. He lied about his age. Yes, the answer is that they're all musical works inspired by political leaders, except for O Tannenbaum. Irishman Jim Connell wrote the lyrics to The Red Flag in 1889 while on a 3-mile journey on a train from Charing Cross. Nowadays, of course, the same journey would allow you to come up with a new set of lyrics for Wagner's Ring Cycle. And so to the final round of this evening, and the 98th of this year, a seasonal swatch of headline material, including many or none from this week's guest publication, the now infamous Christmas Trees Monthly. So, take your partners for trains may be delayed by what?
Tinsel on the line.
Timetables.
Tomatoes on the line is the answer.
Yes, yeah.
Do you know the reason why tomato plants grow on railway lines?
Because nothing much goes past.
It's because of people ignoring signs not to flush the lavatory whilst the train is in the station.
People are excreting tomatoes.
Tomato seeds, presumably. I don't know.
That was a rail track announcement, was it?
Just to prove they really do know shit. Next, new what announced?
Yeah.
New non-drop, pine-free, needly Nordic one.
New Christmas tree.
It is from Christmas Tree Monthly. It's a new Christmas tree spade announced. Next, the Lib Dems are what, and what?
Charles, Bob and Terry.
No, it is in fact boring, ridiculous and effective. And finally, what? Wish you all a very miserable Christmas.
Turkeys.
Chris.
The answer is, in fact, TV soaps. Viewers this Christmas can look forward to a car crash during Coronation Street, a kidnap during EastEnders, a drowning during Brookside, and the usual row over the washing up during the Queen's speech. Which unstable behaviour means that at the end of tonight's in-joke, this week's Ox and Ass are Ian and Charles with 10, while this week's Wise Men are Paul and John with 12. Well done. But before we let them loose on the glue vine, the seasonal jeer of our caption competition...
I thought you said there'd be some women.
Fairies beware, this year you could be hung up by the Cherokees.
And I leave you with news that at Chippenham Town Hall, criticism of the local Chinese takeaway looks like running to a third page. There's delight for executives at Cuppa Soup as they finally crack the vital Korean market. And the morning after the office Christmas party, one reveller regrets agreeing to do a press conference. Merry Christmas.
So, was Genghis Khan the terrifying figure he's cracked up to be, or was he really just a big softie? We sort the myths from the facts next tonight here in UK TV Documentary. Stay with us.